Welcome to Design Muse Podcast, a podcast meant to inspire, educate, and advocate on all things commercial interior design. I am your co-host, Bridget Santos.
And I'm Melanie Hanna.
We are Design Muse Podcast.
We are so excited to be here today with Jessica Collins. She is the design director at the HOK Dallas studio. She is also an amazing artist, amazing human. We're so excited to dive into her story today, and we want to give a huge shout out to Tangram Interiors for allowing us to set up shop in their beautiful Dallas showroom and all their hospitality. So thank you, Tangram, for having us here today. And Jessica, thank you for being here. For part 2 of Design Muse Podcast, we have what's called RFI Time. For those that don't know what RFI Time is, an RFI for interior design is a request for information. And we most often get this during construction administration. But design times have changed, and you know what? We answer RFIs throughout the whole design process, which is a whole thing that we'll have another podcast on with one of our upcoming guests who is in construction. We'll save that for another day, but we're going to dive directly into our RFIs. Jessica, are you ready? RFI number 1. How do you manage your time between being an interior design leader of a global design firm, being a mom, a wife, an industry advocate, an artist, a weaver, can I go on? Awesome human being. How do you manage your time?
I don't. I'm really bad at it. Let's just air that. I am working on time management every day of my life. And that's okay.
Totally
We're being open and honest here on the Design Muse podcast.
It's about evolving over time, right? I want to go back a little bit. When you first started out, how did you do your to-do list? This is always an interesting one. When you first started versus now.
Well, actually, it hasn't changed.
Okay.
Because my specific brand of ADHD is that it doesn't exist if it's not written down and if it's not in my calendar. I have to have something to write with at all times. I live and die by my notebook and my calendar. And if it's not in one of those, it doesn't exist in my brain. It just falls right out. But I will say time management is obviously so critical to our practice and to our feeling complete and we're functioning adult human beings. And I think ultimately what's really helped me recently, especially coming into this newer role as a design director and a leader at my firm, is what is the highest and best use of my time right now? If I'm checking emails, I need to file as much as I can, and I want to touch something once. I can't remember who came out with that first concept of touching it once, but if I'm reading an email, am I trashing it? Am I responding it? Am I filing it?
Today, I had an email up to send to a client. I had somebody else over here that I was talking about staffing. It's all about going ahead and moving forward with that one task that you're on, getting it out the door and on to the next. Do you keep a to-do list?
I do. And I also time block. It's gamification of your day, and it's finding the tool that works best with your brain. I know that I'm playing a game with myself and how my brain works, but I time box. I give myself time for, you are not opening Outlook except for these time blocks on your calendar, right?
Not have it open because I always get distracted. I see that squirrel over there and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going for you. And then I'll hop back.
I minimize it and I've turned off all notifications. I know that I get so distracted when I see that pop up, and there's data that says that it takes you 45 minutes to get back on task if you get one distraction with an email pop up.
Right.
I think what's helped me the most is that I know I am trying to be present and be focused. I have a sticky note on my monitor that says here now.
Oh man, that is impactful.
When I am in the studio, I am here, I am on, I am focused. I am doing my best work. I'm being the best colleague and mentor and leader that I can be. I'm being the best designer for my client and the best partner. And I'm really trying to weed out all the noise, but I also joke with my therapist that here she is again. The best thing that ever happened to me personally was having a child, because I am from us elder millennials and people who graduated during the recession. I personally have always had a really hard time with boundaries and setting boundaries, and I still struggle with that. The best thing that ever happened was that daycare closes at 6 p.m. and they literally lock the door. I know that I can't sit at my desk until midnight anymore because I have somebody else that is waiting on me at daycare. And so I do the best that I can with the time that I have. If we can all do the best that we can with the time that we have and think about our highest and best use of time, I think that's really helped me prioritize my to-do list. And of course, I'm on calls all day long.
How do you help your team prioritize? So I know there's a lot of different ways. I've tried different methods, and I honestly, going back to our last episode where we talked about how we're empathetic towards how others work, at a very beginning of a project, I say, okay, here's our options of, especially a big monster project that there's going to be a lot of phases. How does everyone work best? And we decide as a team how we're going to do this. So I've had some that are I need to work best because when I have a checklist in OneNote. The other ones are, hey, I really like Microsoft Tasks. We can have these buckets and we can see our progress, and we can see that back in whatever phase it is, we didn't finish that, but we're GMP, we're moving that to our permit, whatever. So how do you advise your team to organize themselves when they struggle? Because everybody struggles with that, I feel like, in our industry.
Yeah, we've had a lot of conversations about that actually recently, because I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of new to the industry designers on my team that are in that 0 to 3 years of professional experience category, right? And it's like, well, in school I did this, but guess what? The real world doesn't give you 6 months to do one project, right? We're going to put you on multiple projects at a time, and the deadlines are so much faster. So I think you're right. I think it's about having that open and honest dialogue of like, hey, I really love this smart sheet, but how do you work best? Do you prefer to do it in OneNote? How can we all come together as a team and decide what's best for the team and the project? And of course, because I work for a global firm, we do have standards in place. So
100%.
I always encourage designers to, I think sometimes because everybody coming out of school was so used to having to design everything from scratch on their own, let's work smarter, not harder, and utilize the resources that we are so blessed to have. You don't have to design millwork details from scratch. You can use the ones that are in the template and then edit them as you need to for your specific project.
I've literally had this conversation this week.
Use your resources.
100%. And having those resources really helps springboard. And I think when you look at your list of things to do, whether you're work planning a project, so I love work planning a project out. And I know sometimes it doesn't always work out, but at least here's where we're starting. And then we talked about concept in the first, okay? That's one thing. But then when you have to go draw it, and there's firms that, so we work all in Revit. There's firms that work in both, AutoCAD and in Revit. And so there's different workflows for those different programs. So understanding the workflow is so important, and to set your team up for success. It's vital. And if you don't know your work plan, you don't know the next step as a leader, how does your team know what to do? And you're not flying by the seat of your pants.
You talked a little bit about that one touch method. That is something that I have integrated into not only my work life, but my personal life. How do you manage your family and your personal household versus how you manage your work team?
God love you for asking this question. Shout out to my husband. We're celebrating 10 years of marriage next week, and we have a 2-year-old. And the answer is it's really hard. But I think prioritizing your family and your mental health and your well-being as a person is so important. And I didn't know if I'd ever be able to have children myself. And I always felt that, this is a tangent, but I promise there's a point. I was that person that was with a partner but didn't have children. I personally, as a leader, am very, very aware of everybody on my team should have time to go spend time in their personal life at home. And it doesn't matter if you're male, female, it doesn't matter what gender identity you have. It doesn't matter what your marital status is. It doesn't matter if you have children or not. Everybody on my team should have time to go leave the office and live their lives, right? I don't want to punish people who don't have kids and ask them to stay there all night.
I agree. I've actually, what's on the opposite side of it, I've had team members not say, like, ask for help and say, hey, where I could easily step in and I could help them with certain tasks. Didn't realize it, and they're on a deadline crunch and they're spending that time over, like, they're at midnight, right? And the next day, I could have helped you. Let me
Open
know.
your mouth and communicate.
Yes, it goes back to the communication. Yeah. Let me know, because I could even jump in last minute and help you guys out. I value their personal time for them. I want them to have that.
It's so important to know that being a fully complete and happy and healthy and sane human being makes you better at your job.
I was about to say the same thing.
So I want all of us to go home.
Yes, and your mental health, if you are in a happy state of mind, if you've seen your family, if you've had that great time with your kids, if you've gone out with your friends, you're coming back to work refreshed, ready. We could have a whole podcast about maternity leave in our
Amen.
industry. But, I really feel like it is so important to come to work in a good state of mind, because you're a better employee, you're a better colleague, you're a better service provider for our clients. So the way that I manage my team is a lot of the way that I manage my household. And again, on the calendar, me and my husband are communicating. We're having weekly meetings talking about what's coming up for the kids, communicating with the kids what they need, what they want. It's kind of that same approach, but in my personal life versus business.
That's really impactful, because I think it matters a lot if you have a partner or you don't, or your family's helping you out, or you have a dog, or whatever your situation is, to just allow that time for yourself too. But spend time with the people that you love, that bring you joy, that energize you. And that actually goes back to work too. It's like, if you're in the work environment and you're jiving and not everyone's going to get along. You don't have to like everyone, right? But also, I do think that there's something magical about everyone respecting each other's time. And that's really important. So showing up and being there when you say you're going to be there, that kind of thing, I think is really important. And we went down a tangent from task management. For sure. I think it's always interesting understanding how you juggle things. We've joked about the passion planner that we used to have. I used to have a passion planner and like marking it all off, and now I do it all in Microsoft Task, and I love it. But then I find myself kind of veering from that. I go back and forth between a written copy, and I literally will make a very architectural box to check off.
Of course.
Right. Yeah. It's not the same as tasks, though, where you hear that.
I purchased the big ass calendar. I don't know if you guys have seen.
No, I haven't seen this.
Row is a month. So we mapped out 2025. Not only did we map it out with our deadlines, but we manifested things at the top of the calendar.
I love it.
We wrote things down that we were really trying hard to win a contract on. We put things on there like my project manager baby due date and guessing things. So I think the art of writing things down is for me and my team very visual. We're visual people, and we like to see it, and we like to cross it off, and we like to check it as done. Me and Mel, we talked about this last time, but there was a big deadline, and I remember you saying, you told your team, hey, take off on Friday. Go. We did an amazing job. We got this deadline out. Go be with your friends, go be with your family. I think that's so important. You have a huge win. Go enjoy it. Let's go celebrate your wins, celebrate the times that you do an amazing job with your team, because that again comes back to that mental health of being prepared and ready to do the next one as a team, and then getting to celebrate again. I think that's so important.
100%. One of the next RFIs we have, RFI number 2, is about what it means to be a well AP and a lead associate, which you are.
Yes. I am in that old school bucket. And again, this probably goes back to my imposter syndrome when I couldn't get a job straight up.
That could be an entire episode, by the way. I feel that a lot. Let's circle back to
I think I cried to Melanie last week about having imposter syndrome.
Yeah, and I said, girl, I have that too.
So can we all just acknowledge that
everyone has it, and everyone in the room, no matter what level you're at, is
okay. Since we started this conversation and derailed already, I'll never forget I had someone tell me leaders are people too. That person that you're looking at right now that you say, okay, they're perfect, they're winning awards and they're working on these cool things and they're doing all these things, they struggle too. They're people and they're not perfect. Everybody suffers from imposter syndrome at some point where you're even, why am I at this table? Why me? And it's like you have to look inside and say, okay, you know what? I've worked really hard to get here. I've leaned in. I've been bold and brave. And when you have successes, you need to celebrate that. More than anything, you need to cheer each other on. Bridget and I cheer each other on all the time. I'm like, you go, girl. I'm just like, go be a badass.
It's okay to celebrate other people in your industry who have the
Please
same
celebrate.
role. All sitting here doing the same thing, and it's so important to celebrate each other instead of put each other down to try to make one look better than the other. I think it's so important in our industry that everyone can come together. Owners can be friends, directors can be friends. You talked earlier about reaching out to people that you want to know and that you are inspired by. Don't be scared. If you're a young designer and someone really inspires you and you want to know them, reach out. Most of the time, people are going to be willing to talk to you and give you advice or whatever it is. I had coffee with someone this morning, same thing. She wanted to know how I started a business, how I did it, all the ins and outs. And I said, okay, I'll be totally transparent. This is how it happened, and shared all the information. And I think that's powerful.
That's very powerful.
What an incredible mentorship opportunity, too. Like, you're never going to be able to find that from a website,
No way.
right? And now she has that connection with you.
Right.
I think it's so important for younger designers in our industry or people just starting in our industry to not be afraid to reach out and make friends with people who are your direct competition, because our industry is also the smallest, it feels like, right? And you never know when you're going to be working alongside someone, or when you're going to be, consultants on a project together, or when you're going to be on some IIDA board together. One of my dearest friends in LA and I were the co-VP of student affairs, and he was at Gensler and I was at HOK. It was hilarious because it's like, you really put us together.
Right.
I'm going to burst into flames if I walk into his office. It was incredible, right? Because then I made this lifelong friend with like my frenemy, quote unquote. You just never know where your path will take you. And like, I've never met a stranger, and it hasn't hurt me yet. So.
No, for sure. Okay, so we derailed. We're gonna come back. Well, AP. That was a hard test. It was fun for me to study. I love all the well concepts. It's very impactful, and I use, even if it's not a well project, I still use the concepts. But tell us a little about, let's start with well AP.
Sure. So just a quick which is which. Well has to do with the health and well-being of humans in a built environment.
Right.
LEED is more concerned with how you're constructing and building the building.
Yes.
And it's less concerned about what happens after. Yes, at HOK, we require everyone in our firm to be LEED accredited. It's great because, well, to me, knowing all of the principles of LEED is super important. But for well, it is the day-to-day, how are you impacting people's lives and existence and experience within a space? It's much more fluid, and it's much more of an ongoing process by design, because you have to continually check back in, right? And report on the air quality and like all of the things in the environment to ensure that that space is still meeting those standards that were originally set.
You educate owners on that, because a lot of it is about them maintaining, somebody on their team maintaining all that documentation to submit after the project.
Yes. We as a firm design to baseline standards of LEED and well, whether or not
That's so amazing.
our clients are getting a plaque on
Right.
the wall, right? Whether or not they're paying for that because of our sustainability initiatives globally, we are designing to those standards because we believe that that is best practice.
It's
right?
incredible.
That, again, is a capital V value for me, and that's why I feel so passionately about being part of HOK. All of us can take those well tools, right? Those LEED tools that we've learned, and we can incorporate them into our day-to-day practice, even if that client isn't going for certification. I think it's really important off the bat to, the first thing in the door is, are you potentially going for lead or well certification? And if a client says no, you can say, that's okay. We understand that it is a cost impact. It is a financial decision whether or not the project is going to go through all of that very long paperwork, right?
So
in that process.
If I'm an owner and I don't know anything about the two,
Mhm.
just to kind of water it down a little bit. Well, human impact, day to day. It's about the design aspect. Sustainability is lead, and the built environment. How do you educate? How do you answer that question? Because I've gotten that before. Well, why does this matter other than the plaque on the wall?
And you know what? It is their bottom line that is positively, greatly impacted by just taking that extra step. Again, maybe they don't want the plaque. Maybe they don't want the extra money and time and paperwork, but you will have less sick days. You will have higher retention. You will be able to attract people more because their personal values of health and well-being and wellness and sustainability align with your company's goals. I mean, it is really about showing the people that work for you that you care about them as humans.
Absolutely.
And you can do that without a plaque on the wall. But for me and for HOK, I appreciate that we take that as a baseline, right? 100%. And it's interesting when you speak to an owner or even a developer, you want people to feel healthy and safe and cared for and good at work, right? You want them to be, we have research that it increases productivity by X percent. You want that, right? And they're like, well, yeah, of course we do. It's an of course we do kind of conversation. Ultimately, it comes down to what's right for the ownership and the project. We obviously wouldn't force somebody into gaining that certification, but it's definitely a great conversation just to give them like a little insight into the why of it all.
Sure. The scientific facts behind the why. We're saying it because it has a scientific backing to make people be more productive, to want to come to work or whatever the project is. I think that's important. It's scientifically backed.
It absolutely is. I had a project this week where they're going through a value engineering exercise, and they said, oh, if we take away all the glass, so all the offices are they're not on the core, they're on the outside, the curtain wall. We had all this glazing, and they're trying to go to JIP and do doors with glass inserts. I said, hold on, time out. What I heard you say in the very beginning is that you wanted a space that was, people were going to be more productive. They're going to be happier. They are going to feel like they are in a cave. That I just very blunt. They're going to feel like they're in a cave. I'm going to go ahead and tell you you're going to get complaints, and you have to evaluate if that is worth X dollars. So, and sure enough, they came back and they said, okay, we want to add glass back. Those things matter. And that goes back to well concepts of how much daylight you're getting in and how much exposure you're getting to that. And it's so psychologically impacting with your circadian rhythm, which is, I could talk about well for an entire episode. We'll have you back.
There's another one.
The third one. Let's move on.
Okay, we have RFI number 3. What are the biggest challenges you see on projects both during design and construction phases?
Okay, this is this is a whole episode.
Biggest challenge.
Let's attack it.
Okay, it comes back to communication, every time, everything, right? I'm transparent, I'm blunt, I'm open. When I kick off a project and I meet a contractor that I'm going to be working with for whatever length of time, the first thing that I tell them is that I will reject your millwork shops at least twice. I really care about millwork. It's a personal, really, too much. I care too much. I spend so much time and effort making sure that our millwork details are gorgeous and spot on and exactly meeting the design intent, right? I have this honest conversation with my new GC best friend. I say, I need to have a kickoff call with your millworker and we need to talk about, because they're not chill. They're not low key. And that's just my personal, that's my thing that I really care about, right? Millwork. I think the biggest challenges are where that team partnership mentality is broken or is not strengthened. I've learned that for a lot of projects, you can't just show up to the OAC, owner, architect, contractor weekly meeting, right? You can't show up to your OAC meeting and have that be the first time that you're having the conversation when the client is present. There are so many reasons why having those pre-meetings or those, the client's not in this call. Let's say, okay, right now I have a project. We have a Tuesday call. It's 2 hours. It's the consultant coordination call for the project. The contractor's on, every single consultant we have, we're on. The client is invited, but only certain client team members join. We go deep, and it is
smart sheet.
Oh, there are so many.
You have to have a
Yes,
spreadsheet.
there are so many. The Bluebeam session is crashing our Bluebeam because it's so
I have one
intense.
of those right
Yeah,
now.
it's so big.
My brain is
Yeah.
So I actually we're getting off topic here, but we're going to Bluebeam.
Let's do
With
it.
the very large projects, I find that having that internal Bluebeam session. So Bluebeam is, if you think, for those that are not in the industry, it's a game changer because we can coordinate drawing sets way more efficient than we used to. So I used to have, when Bridget and I worked together, we would plot full-size sheets. I would mark up, or the architect that owned the firm would mark them up. I remember we had a 2-story space and he'd like throw them down to us do you remember? Yeah. And, so we were working off of that, and then it's evolved to, I never liked Adobe PDF, but Bluebeam's awesome because you can overlay, you can easily adapt, you can mark up, you can show details, you can graphically look at it, and then you have this whole track record of where a project has been, where it's started and where it's at now. It can get very overwhelming. It can be a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I've learned, and with Bluebeam, it's like you're marking up a PDF, but then everybody, every consultant, every company who is involved in the project can all have access.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
absolutely
like my favorite part about it.
No, it's great.
I've learned that those ugly, messy, we got to figure this shit out meetings are so critically important.
They are.
Because of the way my brain works, I've learned that I need to almost hone in on this like executive summary. Every time I'm meeting with my client team, I need to have the executive summary version of whatever I'm showing them, right? Like I need to come up with all the questions they're going to ask me, and I need to figure that out in a really ugly, messy way with the big project team, so that when I show up to the client meeting and they say, well, what are you going to do about that duct? And did you coordinate the plumbing? And did you think about how the lighting is? It's like, yeah,
you
we already
have to make
talked about it.
efficient time. You have a time slot. We're working on a big project right now, and you have to be efficient. Every discipline gets so much time, and we have a smart sheet for it. I actually go in and I will that's basically the smart sheet is our agenda, and it has progress to it, which is a beautiful thing because I can go in and I can add all these items, and as we talk about it, and the architect is amazing. They control it all, and it's on their account, but I add it in, and as they're going through, they have it open, and we can all talk about it. I can go to M&P and I can say, hey, your vertical units here, we don't have all the access panels located. What does that look like? And thank goodness we're talking about that right now, because I actually had to change some of our design intent that we had to make it work. Hey, we have tile there. Guess what? You're not painting that access panel. There's tile there.
Yeah.
So those are the beautiful things about being prepared, and having those conversations are so important, and don't let it wait till construction.
Right.
Do not let it wait till construction. Have those conversations, and have hard conversations soon, because no news gets better over time, right?
I say is, if the client's asking, we're too late.
Totally.
If they're asking, we're too late. We should have thought of it.
Totally.
We should have figured it out, and we should have been prepared. So I kind of run by the rule of, you know what? Go through your whole internal checklist. Go through everything that you think they could ask. Make sure you are prepared and have all those questions figured out, all that coordination figured out, because when they ask, you're ready. Or when it comes up, it's ready. Because if they ask and you're not prepared, it's too late.
I have a client who I adore, who is a trained architect, and she's on the end user side. And without fail, she will find every single thing that I haven't quite coordinated fully. It's in our nature, right? You can't turn that off. But I love it because when you have clients like that who are really partners with you and are in the weeds with you, it's also okay to say, okay, I've done all my homework. I've prepared as much as I can, but oh my gosh, you know what? You're brilliant. You're right.
Totally.
I hadn't thought about that piece of this puzzle. You know what? I need to circle back with our engineers, and I will get back to you with some sketches and some thoughts. So like we're all human again,
Exactly.
as we talked about last episode.
Goes back to communication, just like our last episode, and we've talked about even on this RFI time. If you communicate that it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'm going to get back to you. But if you're going to say that, get back to the client.
Yes, and do the homework.
Because that is the worst.
Yes,
Don't do
make
that.
up an answer.
Yes.
Don't think
You have to know all the answers.
that you don't. I mean, I think clients respect when you say, hey, I don't know the answer to that right now, but I'm going to go do my due diligence. I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to come back to you with the right answer. As long as you come back with the right answer and you do your due diligence, then that trust gets built.
Yes.
Like when Christina came on with Toll Brothers, it was you kind of date a little and then you get married. So
That's my favorite quote.
yeah, you build that trust, you
Yeah.
build that communication and that trust, and then all of a sudden you have this jive like you do with your client where, hey, she's really out there seeing things that you don't see, but that's what makes a great team and a great collaboration and what makes a great project.
We've
So-
done multiple projects together, and I
Mhm.
hope that she keeps asking me to get, the band back together. I think that's something that I don't remember if we touched on it last episode, but more advice for designers who are starting out in their career. Nobody expects you to have all the answers. Nobody expects you to know everything. Nobody knows everything. I learned about a Revit button like last week, and it was
Love it.
life-changing, by the way. But the best thing you can do, right, is say, I don't know that answer myself, but my team and I will do our homework and get
Mhm.
back to you. It's such an important aspect of growing and learning in your career. You're not expected to know everything, right? We're still all learning, even as leaders and owners.
I mean, they're asking that question because they don't know. So
Yeah.
they don't know, we don't know, but we're going to find out. And that's our job to find out. Then you come back with the answer.
Okay, so that's a good segue to something that someone told me a long time ago, and it just really impacted me. As an interior designer, we have to be agile. We have got to continue it to change and learn and grow. And that's one reason why I love what we do. I love the impacting people, and I love the beautiful spaces we get to create that have, impact health and they impact wellness, all the things, right? We always get to learn and grow, and we can be, just very open and honest about that. And it's just not something that I feel like every career, they're not truly open about that. For ours, it's an awesome thing to be able to innovate yourself and say, I'm actually interested. This is a hot button right now. I can't believe I'm going to say this. Woo, are you ready? AI is something that we need to embrace in certain ways. However, I disagree with how a lot of it I'm seeing in residential design, especially, is being done. I don't think it should take over anybody's design thoughts or mine or how a space should look and feel. I think that there's really cool ways that we could be using it in the design industry. So I am interested in learning more about that, of how we could save time to be able to spend more of our creative outlet on like our minds, not AI, on design, but maybe there's certain features that give us back time so we can concentrate on those things. Some of the admin part.
Like if I could never do a timesheet again,
Gosh,
when I die to heaven, that's
Oh.
when I don't like if AI could do my timesheet so that I can use
Yes.
what is the highest and best use of my creative mind time? It's not a timesheet. It's not expense reports.
You know what? That's interesting because I use my calendar a lot too. And I'm like, can we just go ahead and create something that can transpose over to, our timesheet program? Because I do not like timesheets. I mean, I see the importance of them. She's cringing over there because she's an owner and doing.
Chime in. So timesheets. It's a funny topic. As an owner, you have to know how much time people are spending on projects to know you're pricing it right. With that
Absolutely.
being said, I want all Emerson James employees to listen because we don't do timesheets.
What?
We don't do timesheets. It's not doesn't work for everybody. We're a small firm. It's 4 of us. It works.
Not mess that up, because I guarantee you I've already gotten an email from our corporate office because I haven't submitted my timesheet yet. You will get it Tuesday. It was due by 5 today. No, it's so funny. No, but it actually is an important thing. Jess, thank you so much for your wisdom and knowledge, for RFI Time and all of the wisdom that you brought to us. We really appreciate your time. Tangram Interiors, thank you again for your hospitality, giving us this beautiful space to come and collaborate and share lessons learned, avocation, education on commercial interior design. Thank you.
Yes, Jess, the perfect muse for our Design Muse podcast. We really appreciate you being here today and spending your afternoon with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Until next time.